Companies have long tried to steer clear of politics, but this new risk of political labeling is now out there. So what could it mean for you and your investment decisions? Joining us tonight, David Nelson. He's Chief Strategist at Belpointe Asset Management. Welcome back. How are you doing?
Thanks for having me.
What do you make of this? As you look at the fundamentals of a company, does this become one of those fundamentals that you look at if they're being labeled politically overseas?
We're going to have to. This is the world that we live in. And increasingly, companies are being actually forced to make a decision. They're actually going to have to choose sides here. And that's something that companies and management have tried to avoid for as long as I can remember. If you take case in point, in Hong Kong, just recently, Apple was kind of brought into the fray here. They were forced to remove their HK map that protesters have been using to track police. They thought by removing it, they had avoided the political fray. And then they're damned if they do, damned if they don't. Right here in Washington, then senators and congressmen weighed in on this and wanted them to put it back. So right. It's a tough situation for all.
So how would you rate it in terms of the fundamentals that you look at when you decide whether or not to buy the stock?
That's a good one, Sue. I have to consider it for sure. You just mentioned in the report, you just mentioned Starbucks. Obviously, when a company is attacked like that, it hits the sales cycle, it hits earnings. Obviously, it's very small for a company like Starbucks, this incident, but what if it had legs? And I think it's great that investors and consumers want to be invested in companies that share their ideals, but we forget sometimes that in the end, a stock certificate just entitles you to the earnings and or dividend stream of that company. That's what's going to fund your retirement. It's not investing in it because it has some social value.
But I know you happen to believe that the job one for an investor is to keep an eye on the bottom line, right?
You have to. I mean, in the end, that's what this is about. And I'm not discounting things like ESG, environmental, social, and governance. These are important issues today, and it's shown that it helps the bottom line. But if that's all it is, and you're only investing in a company because it shares your ideals, somewhere down the road you're going to be sadly disappointed. This company's going to disappoint you.
David Nelson with Belpointe Asset Management. Always good to see you, David. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Bill.
You bet.